Namaskar. I welcome each and every sincere aspirant for this grandest spiritual discourse. Every single sentence uttered by me, every single word uttered by me, every aspect that is taught by me plays a predominant role in your self-realization. I assure you. Every single word uttered by me, every single concept explained by me plays a predominant role for your introspection, for your contemplation, for your self-realization. It allows you to have an unification with the God within. I assure you. The more and more truth is inculcated into your neurological brain, the joy, the bliss, the ecstasy, the exuberance, the effervescence will be enhanced. Will be enhanced. You'll be rejoicing, you'll be enjoying, you'll be celebrating. Enjoying cannot be misunderstood as if you will not face any hardships in the real life. Yes? Though there may be certain hardships, though there may be certain failures in your life, but still in the inner, the joy continues, the bliss continues. It is there uninterruptedly. So with this introduction, invocation, again, I appeal to each and every aspirant. In every context, remember your foreverness. In every context of your life, remember your foreverness. And that entity which is going to exist forever has a thinking pattern, has a modus operandi, has a lifestyle. That thinking pattern, that lifestyle, that modus operandi of that entity which is going to exist forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. That modus operandi, the thinking pattern of your foreverness, that modus operandi, the thinking pattern of your foreverness is called as truth, is called as knowledge. The more and more your neurons are filled with that knowledge, that truth, I mean to say the modus operandi of your foreverness, then finally it is called as enlightenment. I have explained what exactly is enlightenment. Am I clear, my dear aspirants? Today I am trying to teach you something about enlightenment. In the first phase, you have got to understand that there is an entity whose innate consciousness is foreverness. There is an entity who is very much inherent within you, is very much impregnated within you. His thinking pattern is loaded with celibacy. His thinking pattern, celibacy means not, I didn't choose not participating in sex, but his thinking pattern is ceremonial, grander. The thinking pattern of the foreverness, the modus operandi of your foreverness is ceremonial, is grander, is vibrant. That modus operandi of the foreverness is called as truth and knowledge. The more and more your neurological brain is filled with that truth, that knowledge, one fine day, you can just proclaim that I am sufficiently enlightened. That is the thing. Yes, with this introduction, let us shift our gears to Karma Yoga, the current topic The present sloka is 34. Chapter number 3, verse number 34. Yes.
334. इन्द्रियस्येन्द्रियस्यार्थे रागद्वेषौ व्यवस्थितौ तयोर्न वशमागच्छेत् तौ ह्यस्य परिपन्थिनौ. इन्द्रियस्येन्द्रियस्यार्थे रागद्वेषौ व्यवस्थितौ तयोर्न वशमागच्छेत् तौ ह्यस्य परिपन्थिनौ. Either unwanted craziness or aversion are always hidden in the data collected by the sensory organs, the so-called indriyarth. The human race, especially the aspirants, should not yield to the data collected by the sensory organs because they always create hindrances for spiritual enlightenment and self-realization.
And you?
334. Either unwanted craziness or aversion are always hidden in the data collected by the sensory organs, the so-called indriyarth. The human race, especially the aspirants, should not yield to the data collected by the sensory organs because they always create hindrances for spiritual enlightenment and self-realization.
They always create hindrances. Or hindrance. They always create hindrance for our enlightenment or self-realization. Okay. Either unwanted craziness or aversion are always hidden in the data collected by the sensory organs, the so-called indriyarth. The human race, especially the aspirants, should never yield to the data collected by the sensory organs. Data collected by because they always create hindrance for our spiritual enlightenment and self-realization. That is the thing. They always create hindrance for our evolution and enlightenment. So, all these days, because of these ignorant teachers, we were made to believe that the villainary aspect is sensory organs. That the villainary aspect is sensory organs. They were just trying to, you should have a grip on your sensory organs, you should have a control on your sensory organs, as if the sensory organs are itself is the, they are playing the villainary role in our life. And some people say the incidents which are happening in the physical world, they are villainary. But I don't, see, Lord Sri Krishna has categorically made very clear in this particular sloka, the villainary aspect is neither sensory organs nor the incidents which are happening in the physical world, but contaminating your thinking pattern with the data collected by the sensory organs. As it is, the sensory organs are fine. As it is, the incidents which are happening in the real world are also fine. But when you have begun to contaminate your thinking pattern with the data collected by the sensory organs, what happens is you will be riddled in humanity, because always the data collected by the sensory organs are loaded with either craziness or hatred, aversion. Okay? How do you do it? Again, let me clarify you very clearly. All these days, all these ignorant religious stupid beings, they were trying to wrongly impress on us that as if the villainary aspect is sensory organs. And some said the villainary aspect is those incidents which are happening in our real life. But in this beautiful sloka, Lord Sri Krishna has categorically made it very clear. The insight of this particular sloka is, the insight of this particular preaching is, neither the sensory organs are villains, nor the incidents which are happening in the real world are also not villains. The villainary aspect is contaminating your thinking pattern with the incidents, with the data collected by the sensory organs. Never, ever contaminate your inner thinking pattern with the incidents which are happening in your real life. That is the must. Never, ever contaminate your thinking pattern with the incidents which are happening in the real life. Never, ever contaminate your thinking pattern with the incidents, with the data collected by the sensory organs. And he has also made it very clear that the data collected by the sensory organs is always loaded with either craziness towards physicality nor aversion towards physicality or towards that particular item. Because the data collected by the sensory organs and the natural consequences of the sensory organs, which are called as craziness or aversion, all these create hindrances. All these create hindrance for your growth, for your enlightenment, for your self-realization. Am I clear? But how do you do it, my dear aspirants? How do you do it? You practice or what? Show me a ritual or show me a practice with which you can become a master in this. This is only realization. This cannot be practiced. It is the natural outcome of spiritual knowledge. It is a happening, not doing. This is awareness. This is natural consequence of the truth and knowledge. How do you practice? Tell me. How do you guess whether your thinking pattern got contaminated or whether your thinking pattern has not been contaminated? How do you guess? I'll tell you. First of all, a human being should become a spiritual aspirant, in the sense he should be at least, either hypothetically, he should be able to understand what the spiritual teacher is teaching. The lesson taught by the spiritual teacher is, you are an entity, you have been in existence since, and you are going to exist forever. Once the human being should understand that he continue to exist even after he exits from the embodiment, his life is foreverness. It is he who has created this creation. So if you view your character from your foreverness point of view, you will realize that the character itself is not really real. Whenever you are viewing this character from the point of view of your foreverness, you will realize that this character is not really real. This time I have played the character of a character called Vivek and a masculine gender. It's not necessary that in the previous incarnation I might have preferred masculine gender. And the characters of my previous character may be quite contrary to the characters of this Vivek. Kada? I mean to tell you, first realization should be that I am forever. The first and foremost realization should be, I am forever. I continue to exist even after I exit from this embodiment. I was there since, S-I-N-C, not since. I was there from since. It is me who has created this beautiful creation. That is why I always recommend you to go through chapter number 2, verse number 12, where Lord Sri Krishna has categorically taught the human beings that you are not temporary, you are not passing clouds, but you are forever. You are forever. Once I am telling you, you should be convinced, at least hypothetically. Hypothetically getting convinced means accepting the truth without evidence. Later on we will talk about the evidence part. At least an aspirant should hypothetically get convinced that he is a forever entity. Once you are convinced with your foreverness, then if you view and analyze the character from the point of view of your foreverness, you'll realize that the character is not really real, and the characters of this character may be quite contra to the characters of the earlier incarnation. Then you will realize that the character is not really real. Then you will also realize what is the relationship between your character and your consciousness. It is on par with the relation between an actor and the character played by the actor. The relationship between consciousness and character is on par with the relation between the actor and his character. एक चरित्र निभा रहे हैं हम लोग. मैं विवेक नामक एक चरित्र निभा रहा हूं. मैं अपूर्व चैतन्य हूं, लेकिन अभी विवेक नामक एक चरित्र निभा रहा हूं. In the same way, like a famous actor, Salman Khan might be playing a particular character in particular movie. The original nature of Salman Khan has nothing to do with the characters, scenarios which are happening in the movie. And once if you realize this, naturally the awareness happens. Naturally a iron hill will be protecting you. It is like a quota, it's like a fort. It will be protecting you. Once you realize that this character is not really real, you will understand everything that is happening in the character is also not real. Once if you realize that the character itself is not real, then the second realization is everything that is happening in the character is also not really real. Then naturally a file will be opened in your thinking pattern. Now there are two files, one for the sake of character, one for your soul and spirit. Naturally when this file is opened, when this information enters into your thinking pattern, it gets attracted towards that file and it is being stored in that file. It is never going to, the data collected by the sensory organs is always being captivated in the file of the character. It will never corrupt your original thinking pattern. It is the outcome of knowledge. It is the outcome of truth. Unless you do not know anything about, when you do not know anything about your foreverness, how can you control, how can you avoid, when you are very much a part and parcel of the physical world, when number of scenarios are happening in your life, how do you protect yourself? When you are part and parcel of the physical world, when your embodiment is very much part and parcel of the physical world. So this happens only the more and more knowledge is inculcated into your neurological brain. Naturally, you will not be tempted towards the data collected by the sensory organs. The data collected by the sensory organs will be registered in the separate file, will be stored in the separate file. From my point of view, my explanation is this.